The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. Former U.S. President is expected to be arraigned in New York on Tuesday. This following his indictment over hush money paid to a porn star. A Trump lawyer says she expects more details surrounding the arraignment to be resolved on Monday. However, Trump's lawyer says the former president will unlikely be paraded in front of the media due to security concerns. Still, Trump is set to make public remarks at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida on the same day following his arraignment. But it is still unclear what Trump would be talking about. Donald Trump's indictment has sent shockwaves all over the United States as he becomes the first former president to face criminal charges. Let's listen in on what people in the U.S. have to say about the issue in this video courtesy of the Associated Press.
I think the justice system is kind of flawed. It has been the whole time. So, we're just finding out firsthand from an ex-president what it's really about.
I think it's all political scheme. I think it's a ploy to try to not get him to run for presidency again.
I think it's mostly political. I mean, how are we going to keep a president under security with his security in a jail cell? And I don't know. I just think there's more important things in this country now that need to be focused on than chasing Trump. Like him or not, I think there's just more valuable things that can be done with our time.
I'm from the UK, and from where we're watching from, I think it's reassuring that there appears to be one rule of law for everybody. If he's innocent, then he has a chance to prove his innocence in a court, and if he's guilty, he'll have to deal with it, I guess.
Mixed feelings, because I'm glad that he got indicted, but also what does that say about our country that he was able to be president and this is the outcome? He's a criminal and he's the one that was leading our country. How devastating.
A well-known Russian military blogger was killed by a bomb blast in St. Petersburg cafe in what appeared to be the second assassination on Russian soil of a figure closely associated with the war in Ukraine. State-owned RIA News agency said 25 people were wounded due to the blast and 19 of them are being treated in the hospital. The pro-way vlogger Vladlen Tatarsky had more than 560,000 followers on Telegram and was one of the most prominent and influential military bloggers who have provided an often critical running commentary on Russia's war in Ukraine. Tatarsky was among hundreds of attendees at the lavish Kremlin ceremony last September to proclaim Russia's annexation of 4 partly occupied regions of Ukraine, a move that most countries at the UN condemned as illegal. Russia's State Investigative Committee said it had opened a murder investigation into the blast. A leading Russian official, meanwhile, pointed the finger at Ukraine without providing evidence. A Ukrainian presidential advisor, however, believes that domestic terrorism was breaking out in Russia. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. Here are some updates on several key elections around the world over the weekend. Economy expert and political novice Jakub Milatovic won the presidential runoff election in Montenegro on Sunday, securing 60% of the votes. Milatovic defeats Milo Đukanović, the pro-Western incumbent who has been in power for more than 3 decades in the small NATO member nation in Europe. In a victory speech, Milatovic described the moment as historic and promised to help lead Montenegro into the European Union during his 5-year term in office. Over in Bulgaria, exit polls show that a pro-Western reformist bloc has won most of the votes in the parliamentary election. It garnered around 25.3% of the votes, just ahead of the center-right grouping of former Prime Minister Boyko Borisov. It was Bulgaria's 5th election in 2 years, as personal antipathy has prevented leaders from forming a stable coalition government. And Finland's right-wing opposition National Coalition Party leader Petteri Orpo has claimed victory in parliamentary election. With 93.4% of the votes counted, Orpo's party looks set to get the most seats in parliament, 48 out of 200 in total. The country's Prime Minister Sanna Marin of ruling Social Democratic Party has conceded defeat in the close-fought election. Pope Francis led a Palm Sunday service in St. Peter's Square, a day after he was discharged from the hospital. The Pope's speech appeared labored upon making the initial blessing while standing up. However, it improved when he spoke seated later on in the service. The service comes immediately after the Pope was cleared from the hospital due to a severe bout of bronchitis. During the service, the Pope urged the world to take better care of the poor, the lonely, and the infirm.
Partecipare alla gloria della risurrezione. Egli è Dio e vive e regna con te nell'unità dello Spirito Santo per tutti i secoli dei secoli. Amen.
The role-playing game adaptation Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves opened with $38.5 million in US and Canadian movie theaters over the weekend, stealing the top box office perch from John Wick Chapter 4. The film, released by Paramount Pictures and E1, appealed to more moviegoers than expected, and it was based on a notoriously niche tabletop game. Honor Among Thieves, which features some prominent actors including Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and Hugh Grant, has scored 91% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. John Wick Chapter 4, which launched last weekend with a franchise best of $73.5 million, slid to second place in its second weekend with $28.2 million. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. Coming right up is Agenda at 8 a.m. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.